AMD just reported earnings and the stock price is down roughly 4% as I am recording today's episode. I do want to say it is after hours and all this can change as investors start to kind of digest the earnings a little bit more. I want to say there are some yellow flags that have come out after my initial look. I want to share some of my thoughts here, but I don't think things are that bad. So let's take a closer look in today's episode. So as we can see, AMD right now is sitting at roughly $89 before the market close. After hours, the stock is fluctuating but sitting around 86. I kind of want to first see how the stock was kind of doing prior to the earnings. We can see in the past 5 days, the stock is up 4%. And in the past month, the stock is down roughly 7%. Again, not counting those after hours moves. But I just wanted to see how much kind of hype was there behind the stock prior to earnings. We could see year to date, the stock is up roughly 40%. But remember, most of the semiconductor market is up right now. All right, so first let's take a closer look at the press release. They start off by sharing that, hey, the data center and the embedded segments now contribute more than 50% of total revenue in the first quarter. I think that's great to know that, hey, this company can do well even when the consumer market is bad because they do have other solutions in the data center and in the embedded market. And it also works in the other way, right? If the data center market goes down to some extent, this is a company that hopefully consumer market picks back up and they'll be able to offset maybe some of those declines there. So I'm happy that this is a company that's pretty much distributed within consumer market, within clouding businesses, within data centers and embedded market, because if one goes down, maybe the other one at one point may be able to lift it up or kind of create some floor. Like we're seeing right now, the data center and the embedded market is creating some floor for AMD because their consumer space is pretty low. Unfortunately, right, there is going to be a scenario or some time when all their markets might be down, but at the moment that doesn't seem to be the case. The company also does share that for their second quarter, they expect sequential growth in the data center. And this is pretty interesting because they didn't really expect too much growth in the data center in the first half. But now they're saying, hey, the data center market is expected to go up. And they're also seeing some they expect some sequential growth in the client segment. The client segment is their Ryzen CPU processors, which is more on the consumer side. So it does seem like we are getting to some bottom here in the over inventory correction. In my opinion, both that data center and client segment revenue sequential growth are very strong bullish points for the company. They do mention that they are expected to see some declines in the gaming and in the embedded segments. I am honestly surprised that the embedded market might see some sequential decline and some modest decline, and maybe that's what investors are worried about because the embedded market, as we're going to see in a bit, is one of their highest margin markets overall. Now, if we take a closer look at financial results, revenue is down 9% year over year. I do want to say that quarter one of 2022 only had partial Xilinx acquisition numbers. So if those numbers were for the full quarter, that revenue decline would actually be a lot higher. On a non-GAAP basis, they do mention that net income is down roughly 39%. Again, that's something you don't want to see, but I think we're kind of getting into the bottom, or I think the worst is kind of almost here for AMD, and I'll explain a little bit more in some of the charts. Some recent highlights that they mentioned, for example, hey, they continue to say that AMD continues to do well with major cloud service providers like Microsoft, like Google Cloud, like Oracle, all announcing new capabilities of AMD's EPYC processors. We also saw them kind of announce Avail earlier. I did a video on that about a month ago, I believe, and how they're kind of using this Xilinx acquisition to increase your data center solutions. So that's great news for AMD. I don't think I have too much else here. They did share their overall guidance, but I think it's better on the presentation.
Discover the world of semiconductors without getting lost in the technical jargon. My new membership offers a perfect balance for investors looking to understand this exciting market. Using my electrical engineering knowledge and experience, I will release weekly exclusive videos ranging from quick 5-minute 101s to in-depth analysis, covering not just popular chip stocks, but aiming to explore every public semiconductor. Plus, join the private community of like-minded investors. Finally, I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
So now if we look at the presentation, I thought this was pretty funny. It's all about AI now, so they had to definitely kind of share a slideshow about all their AI solutions. I think this is, if you're an AMD shareholder, these are all old news for you, but it kind of just shows how the even businesses need to kind of showcase, hey, look, we are in this market, even though everybody should know about it. All right, so next I want to take a closer look at the revenue segment, or this chart for AMD, and I believe this can kind of show us a little bit more of the market and why I believe we're very, very close to the bottom in form of AMD pain. First, we can see quarter 3, quarter 4, and quarter 1 for AMD. The past 3 quarters have been pretty flattish, give or take. Obviously, here in quarter 1, 2023, it dropped by about $200 million. And here, if we take a closer look at the financial outlook, for quarter 2 of 2023, AMD expects revenue of $5.3 billion. So it's going to be a small sequential decrease if it is at midpoint, right? If they kind of go on the higher end, it's actually a small sequential growth. But to me, it tells me, again, we're seeing kind of that flat line in revenue. And that tells me one way or another that, hey, maybe the bottom is here for AMD. For the full year of 2023, they do expect the data center and the embedded segments to expect to grow on a year-over-year basis. Those are strong portions of the company's total revenue. We also saw that for this upcoming quarter, they might expect some client revenue growth. So like I mentioned, I do believe to some extent the bottom is here for AMD. I don't know how much growth we might be able to see this year, especially here in the first 3 quarters. I don't think we're going to see much growth. It might be interesting to see how at least the last quarter of 2023 goes. But we can see quarter 2 is estimated to be a decrease of 19% year over year. And quarter 2 of 2022, that was a full year of Xilinx acquisition. So we can definitely see here, this is going to be a true picture of how the market is doing for AMD. And if we take a closer look at their segment results, I don't think anything really stood out to me too much except the following. First, embedded market, that continues to be a huge operating income profitable for the company. We can see roughly 50% in operating income margins. The gaming market is pretty much flat to some extent, obviously is down, but again, nothing that worries me. The client segment operating income is at a loss, but this is to be expected because of that over inventory correction we are seeing in the market. But remember, AMD did guide for a quarter 2 client growth. Maybe we might start to see these losses dwindle a little bit, or maybe even expect a kind of flat even number in the client segment. But we can see how the PC market has taken such a huge hit. It is down roughly 65% year over year. The great news is when this turns around, this will be able to fuel AMD's operating income and earnings per share. Now, the one that I do believe investors might be worried about as well is here, this data center market. The data center market revenue is pretty much flat year over year, but their operating income is down roughly 65%. And this is supposed to be a high margin area. This is something to really keep an eye out. And as an investor, this is something I'm going to have to watch over the next few quarters. They do mention that the primary reason for operating margins is primarily due to product mix and an increase in research and development investments. Right now, we are seeing a lot of companies going kind of putting the metal to the pedal. Is that the saying? On the gas when it comes to AI investing. And here we can see AMD is pretty much doing the same with their data center market. Outside of that, the only thing I want to mention is financially, this company is pretty stable in my opinion. Cash and short-term investments are up 1% quarter over quarter, even though inventories are up 12%. So they didn't really increase their total debt. So in my opinion, they're using their cash flow greatly to kind of increase in inventories, and they do mention that inventories are up quarter over quarter primarily in anticipation of the ramp of new data center and client products in advanced process nodes. So we can see, especially in the client market, it seems like AMD is to somewhat expecting the bottom to have passed already, and now they're going to start delivering some more of those products. And in the data center market, we know they do have a nice amount of solutions. I do believe some other portions of Genoa are also coming out of their fourth generation server processor, which might be included here in this inventories. So in my opinion, AMD earnings were okay, right? We are continuing to see this weakness in the short term of things, but we are expected to see some strength in the long term of things. If to me, the biggest yellow flags that as an investor, I'm going to have to keep an eye out is one, kind of take a closer look at why this embedded market might see a sequential decrease in the upcoming quarter, and two, why is the data center margins really decreasing, and is this something that's only going to happen for this quarter and maybe the upcoming quarters, or is this a new trend where gross margins in the data center market are a lot lower? So let me know your thoughts. Do you believe this 5% decrease is valid? To me, long-term shareholder, not selling anytime soon, and I do believe AMD in the long term will definitely be larger than $144 billion market cap that it is right now. So take care, have a good day, and see you next time.